Good afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for another debate show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon are Toby Wilding and Marcus Ally. Toby, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, thanks. All the better for the weekend's results. So looking forward to getting into looking at some really good players here now.
Yep, that's what we're going to get into in a minute. Marcus, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Some really exciting players in League One this season. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, this afternoon we're taking a look at the best players in League One. Three players. We've picked three players each. They're too good, we feel, for the third tier and could well be on the move sooner rather than later. So let's get straight into it. Toby, let's come to you first of all. Name one of your players and explain why you picked him.
Yeah, so I'll start with the man who I sort of picked first, and that's taking us to Rotherham with Michael Smith. Obviously, he's had an excellent start to the season for the Millers, 9 goals, so he's a joint second top of the scoring charts in League One, pitching a couple of assists as well. But I think what sort of stands out to me too about Smith is sort of his record last season. He found himself in a Rotherham team that was sort of battling relegation last season, and even then he was really impressive with his in terms of his returns. You know, sort of 10 goals, 3 assists last season. So that sort of shows what he could do in the Championship. The fact that he was doing that with a team battling relegation, you almost sort of think, what would he have done with a side further up the Championship table? And obviously he's built on that again this season with the performances he's producing now for the Millers in the promotion battle. I mean, he's a huge presence as well. Physically, he's going to cause problems for any defenders. I was having a look at the stats. I think he's like 6th highest in the whole league in terms of aerial duels won per game. So he's just a huge presence. He's going to cause problems for any defenders in the league. So I think if he carries on like that, whether Rotherham go up or not, I think there will be a chance he's back in the Championship next season. I mean, I think almost with the links there was this summer, he's perhaps a bit, well, might not view it as unlucky given how he's going with Rotherham, but there was perhaps a possibility that he would still have been in the Championship this season, and I don't think it would have been a surprise, and I don't think you could have blamed any Championship club for moving for him after what he did last year.
Yeah, he certainly had a good start so far. 9 goals in League One. Obviously, we saw one of his sort of attacking partners, Toby, leaving the summer, Matt Crooks. Were you perhaps surprised that Smith didn't follow him in the summer out the door at Rotherham?
Yeah, like I say, I think there was a bit of that in terms of given his record similar to Crooks. He sort of both of those players showed how good they could be in the Championship. So I think it wouldn't have been a surprise to see another side maybe take a chance on him, given the return he could have got, perhaps with almost a stronger source of supply coming from behind him. Obviously, he had that with Crooks, but perhaps with other players in there as well to sort of team up, maybe he could have flourished even more. So, yeah, there's perhaps a bit of a surprise that he didn't. And I think the fact that he has stayed at Rotherham is probably a big show of intent from them in terms of their sort of aims of getting straight back up to the Championship again this season.
Yeah, they're certainly going well at the moment. The Millers 5th place in the third tier table. So that's Michael Smith, first player down. Marcus, let's come to you with one of your selections now. Who would you say, one of your 3 players that's too good for League One at this current stage?
I'm going to start with Dapo Afolayan. For me, he's probably the standout player if I was to name one in League One so far this season. West Ham United academy graduate, but has taken a lot of time to develop, maybe a little bit of a late developer, of course, still in the early stages of his career at 24 years old. Last season, as Bolton got promoted from League Two, he only contributed 1 goal and 2 assists. So this has kind of come out of nowhere, a real coming of age at the start of the season. He's got 7 goals. He hasn't registered assists yet, but he has created 2.3 expected assists. So it's not like he's not contributing in the creative contingent at all. But it is the types of goals that he's scoring that stand out for me. There's been a handful that have been outside the box. The way he just manages to caress the ball into the bottom right corner, a real theme of his goals, is really majestic and a skill that he's really mastered that I think you don't see too much at this level. I think a lot of his goals this season, just the nonchalance, how clinical he can be, is not something we're used to seeing in League One. So I think Dapo Afolayan for me has to be on the list. And by some of the things that Ian Evatt and Anthony Sarcevic before he left the club have been saying in the press, I don't think he'll be in League One next season with or without Bolton Wanderers.
Yeah, I think it's certainly likely that he's going to be playing at a higher level sooner rather than later. I was lucky enough to see him live when Bolton came to Charlton a few weeks ago, and obviously Bolton won out 4-1. Hate to remind you of that, Marcus, but a really good player. He's actually one of my picks as well for this particular show. 3 players, 2 good for League One. I think it's interesting as well, Marcus. You just look at where he's been. He's only 24. He only turned 24 in September as well, but he's certainly racked up the clubs. Obviously, in his youth career, the likes of Chelsea and West Ham, as you mentioned. But then, you look at where he's played as well. Solihull Moors, Oldham on loan, Mansfield on loan. He played for Toronto out there for a little bit as well. 24 years old. He's had quite a varied career, hasn't he? And do you think, that sort of experiences in various different leagues, various different countries as well at times, it's kind of put him in good stead to really sort of hit the ground running so far this year for Bolton?
It seems to now. I think leaving academy football as late as he did maybe puts a bit more weight on his shoulders, as in sort of now or never mentality. He was lucky to maybe stay at Bolton as long as he has. I'm not sure, it might have been a loan last season, maybe made permanent in the summer, or I'm not 100% sure on that. But considering his numbers in League Two last season, for him to go in League One as a first choice player, you could argue maybe he was a little bit fortunate. Clearly, Ian Evatt saw something in him last season that suggested he was capable of putting together what we've seen at the start of this campaign. Just going back to that night at the Valley, as you mentioned, just to try and put it into a bit of context, he was up against Adam Matthews, the Charlton right back that night, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the better right backs in the division on his day. And he ended his career, to be honest, would be how the viral tweet would run. It was not a happy night for the Welshman. And yeah, it just showed that even though he's scoring these similar types of goals, Afolayan is still developing his game as he goes to still be able to cut in on his right foot and push it into that bottom corner. So he's been great viewing so far this season, and long may it continue.
Yeah, he's certainly been really impressive to watch for Bolton so far. Liam agrees as well on YouTube, getting in touch with us. Good enough for the Premier League. He has so much quality. Well, the way he's going, you can certainly see him playing higher than League One sooner rather than later. So as I mentioned, Afolayan's one of my players as well. So I think we've probably discussed him at length for enough, at least on this particular show. Toby, let's come to you. Let's talk your second player. Who is it and why?
Yeah, my second player, I've gone for someone who's only just come into League One from the Championship, and that's Sam Morsy at Ipswich. I mean, I think we were all a bit surprised when he made that move to Ipswich on the final day of the summer transfer window. I mean, he was well established at Middlesbrough. He's been in the Championship for a good few years now with Middlesbrough and Wigan, well over 100 appearances in that division. He's twice won promotion from League One with Wigan Athletic. He captained them during part of that. So I don't think there's any doubt that he knows how to get out of this division and how good he is at playing in this division. Obviously, it was going to take something a bit special to force him to come back down to League One. And I think obviously the fact that he played under Paul Cook at Wigan, who's obviously now in charge at Ipswich, has had a big part in that. And the other interesting thing about that for me is obviously that it's linked him back up with Lee Evans in midfield at Ipswich. Obviously, he's another who Cook knows from his time at Wigan. So that sort of link-up could be absolutely huge for Ipswich. And the fact that Morsy, he's a Championship quality player, clearly, from his record playing in League One. And I mean, I was looking at, again, Ipswich's record this season. I mean, Morsy started 6 times for Ipswich this season. They've won in the league, and Ipswich have won 4 of those games and got 1 draw. So that's 13 points in 6 when Morsy started for Ipswich. And compare that to when he hasn't started, either not being there or suspended or whatever, it's 7 points in 8. So that shows you just how big a figure he is for that side at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real eye-catching sign, wasn't it, when Ipswich managed to bring Morsy in from Middlesbrough. And I think it's a great point you make as well, Toby. You only have to look at the way they're looking at the league table now. Since he's come in, they've moved themselves up to 10th. Obviously, plenty expecting them at the start of the season to be challenging for promotion. Finally, looks like they're getting on that track now. Do you think though, if they do miss out on promotion this year, Toby, there's a chance that someone might come in for him again and try and bring him back to the Championship? I mean, obviously he has probably gone there because Paul Cook's there, so he's more than happy at Portman Road. But he's getting to a point in his career where he's probably only got a few years left right at the top to get the best out of himself. So can he, snub another Championship move if it doesn't work out for Ipswich this season?
I think it'll be a tough call for him. I mean, I think Ipswich will be in a strong position there because I think it's a 3-year contract he's signed at Portman Road. So even if a club was to come in this summer and Ipswich haven't gone up, then they're in a strong position to sort of demand what they might want for him. And I think Ipswich's owner, Brett Johnson, sort of came out last week, said promotion isn't essential this season. You know, they need a bit of time to bed in players after such a sort of big squad overhaul this summer just gone. So would there be pressure on them? Definitely, because like we're saying, he's a proven championship player. There'd be clubs that would love to have him, but I get the feeling that Ipswich would be keen to stand firm. And I think Morsey as well, given that connection he has with Cook, may well be tempted to say, well, because we know we can do this between us, I'll give you one more year here, and if it doesn't work out, I go at the end of next season if we're still in League One at that point, when you'd still get a fee for me and I still got a chance at the Championship. So I think that business could work out quite nicely for Ipswich in that sense.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be eager to keep him past the end of this season, obviously, even if they don't go up. Liam again has got in touch on YouTube, agrees with you there, Toby, agrees on Sam Morsey being one of those players in League One that's perhaps too good for third tier level. Guys from the Stacey West have got in touch. Liam Bridcut getting a mention here, 100% too good for this division. Probably a little bit injury prone, but technically miles better than 90% of the midfielders in the division. People watching wherever you are, do get in touch. Let us know the players you think are too good for League One. That brings us nicely, Marcus, to one of your players, actually, keeping with the Lincoln thing.
It does indeed, yeah. Anthony Scully, the 22-year-old winger at Lincoln, has had a fantastic start to the season and has been excellent at Sincil Bank ever since joining. I've just realised I've gone for another player that was involved in the youth setup at West Ham United, another wide man. But Scully, for me, had to be on this list. I think he's a player that won't be in League One for very long. He's got 29 goals and 13 assists in 76 outings for Lincoln City, which is a goal or an assist every 1.8 games, so less than every other game. He's popping up with a significant contribution. Does take penalties for Lincoln. That suggests a bit of seniority in the side, but does help his numbers along. But he's had an outstanding start to the season, even with Lincoln not hitting the heights of the last campaign. They're 15th in the table, and he's just such a threat. I think one thing also about Scully that suits him to playing above League One is his versatility. His numbers don't really drop off no matter where he plays in a front three, whether that's on the left, on the right, or as a mobile central striker. So he's a really exciting player, and one who I think Michael Appleton is really getting the best out of. Maybe Michael Appleton we could see managing above League One quite soon, and we could see him take Scully with him. Who knows? But I think his intelligence is one thing that really stands out at 22 years old. Just the way his movement is so intelligent. He scores all different types of goals. And he's definitely a standout player that had to be in the trio that I selected for this debate.
Yeah, I mean, Scully had a great start to the season. Helen's got in touch on YouTube, agrees with you there, Marcus. Can see Scully becoming a full international for the Republic of Ireland very soon. Only 22, like you say as well there, Marcus, and will only get better. Obviously, you mentioned there as well, Marcus, Lincoln haven't had as, a good a season as they would have liked so far. Obviously, made the playoff final last year. They'll be looking to get up the League One table as soon as possible. I guess the risk for them is if they do sort of fall short of the playoff picture and the promotion picture, at the end of this season, that there's potentially a risk that he could end up moving away.
Yeah, definitely. I think they lost George Grant to Peterborough in the summer. You'd think if there was serious promotion ambitions to go again, that was a player they maybe could have kept hold of. But yeah, it's going to be tricky. I believe Lincoln will get on a run at some point this season. They're too good not to, but I'm not sure whether it'll be enough to get them really pushing for that top six, which is where they want to be. So, I trust Michael Appleton at the helm to maybe have a good January transfer window. They've been really good in the loan market and just in terms of transfers in general in the last couple of years, which enabled them to have such a successful season last term. But whether Anthony Scully will still be at the club when the Imps are able to be back pushing at the top of League One, I'm not so sure. It will be interesting. I'm sure the rumour mill could be running wild for Scully in January.
Yeah, we will have to see what happens there. Let's come to one of my players in my second pick of the three that I think are too good for League One level. I've perhaps gone a little bit little bit more left field. I've gone for Scott Twyne at MK Dons. Potentially, he's very good at League One level and perhaps not ready just yet for the Championship, but I don't think it'll be too long. You only have to look at the progress he's made in recent years, the way he's come through at Swindon, obviously a loan at Newport County as well. He's done really well in the last few years. And you have to look at his stats from midfield for MK Dons this season: 6 goals and 2 assists in 14 appearances. Toby, let's just talk Scott Twyne just briefly. He's a really impressive player, isn't he? And one that has got so much potential at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the point you make there about Swindon is quite a pertinent one as well. I mean, he started last season out on loan in League Two with Newport, didn't he? And I mean, his numbers there were ridiculous. I mean, 6 goals, 7 assists in 19 league games. So at that point, it's sort of a bit of a no-brainer for Swindon to bring him back in January. And I mean, from there, he was outstanding as well. I mean, I think there was that stunning goal at Ipswich that sort of everyone will remember him for. But I mean, altogether, 25 appearances, 7 goals, 3 assists. It's a remarkable return again for a side who were battling relegation and ultimately did go down. So again, the fact that he was sort of pulling in those numbers for a side at the wrong end of the table shows just how good he is at that level. And he's sort of taken that on now with MK Dons in terms of, again, he's getting the goals, he's getting the assists, creating the chances. So he's doing pretty much everything you could ask for from an attacking midfield player. And if he continues to do that, I mean, it'd be no surprise to see him go up to Championship sooner rather than later. I think MK Dons even pulled off a bit of a coup getting him this summer, because there did seem to be a few Championship clubs linked with him then.
Yeah, he certainly seems to be on a very good career trajectory at the moment. Tom T's been impressed with what he's seen with Twyne as well. Got some of the best long-range finishing he's seen in League One. Just before we get on to our final player as well from this selection, Tom has offered another option potentially. We'll come to you with this, Marcus, because obviously you're a Charlton fan. He thinks in time Sam Lavelle will be too good for League One. Early days for him at Charlton, but looks very promising. Obviously, it's been tough, hasn't it, Marcus? I think that's fair to say for the Addicts so far this year. But I think Lavelle is probably, of the few players that you could give credit to this season, he's done okay, hasn't he?
Certainly. I think he might be our second top scorer, which says a lot about how the season's gone so far. There's been people calling for Sam Lavelle to get the captain's armband. That's been how good he's been since coming in from Morecambe. Produced an excellent season under Derek Adams last term, lifting the playoff trophy with the Shrimps at Wembley at the back end of last season. It's a big step up to Charlton in terms of the size of the club, but he's taken it all in his stride. He's a good age at 25. Centre-backs typically can develop a little bit later on than players further up the pitch. We've seen how quickly the likes of Rob Dickie have developed going from League One to the Championship. Maybe Sam Lavelle will be a player that has his eyes on that in the next couple of seasons. I was really excited when Charlton brought Lavelle in on transfer deadline day, because he is a player that Charlton, a club with aspirations to not be playing in League One. If they achieve that, I could see Sam Lavelle being a starting centre-back for the club for the next 5 years or so. So, 25 years old, plenty of time for development. He's definitely, I completely agree with Tom. I think Lavelle's ceiling is much higher than League One level.
Yeah, certainly had a pretty decent start at Charlton. He'll be looking to build on that in the weeks ahead. Obviously, Johnny Jackson at the helm at the moment, the caretaker manager, got a good win at Sunderland at the weekend. Toby, let's come to you then with your final player who you feel is too good for League One.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the sort of defensive theme we've just picked up on there with Lavelle. I've gone to Dominic Iorfa at Sheffield Wednesday. I think you look at sort of his career record so far. This is the first time since when he first made the step up into senior football that he's found himself back at League One level. So I think that shows you just how capable and how established he was in the Championship. I mean, I think you go back to last season, he was a massive miss for Wednesday. I mean, obviously injury restricted him to 10 league games that campaign, and we all know sort of what happened there with the relegation. Whereas the season before, when he'd been a regular for the Owls, they were quite comfortably clear of the bottom three come the end of the season, albeit they weren't quite as strong as they should have been. But I think he in particular is a player I really like. Just sort of his presence, his control at the back. He's capable of playing right back or centre back as well. That versatility can be really useful. Could well be again this season. So yeah, he's a player that I'm a big fan of, and I definitely think that if Wednesday don't go up this season, then there will be clubs sort of circling for him, which makes the fact that Wednesday were able to get him on a new contract this summer an absolutely crucial piece of business.
It's an interesting one with Arthur because, you do look at him, Toby. He's such a real presence at the back, isn't he? He's got so many good attributes, and you almost think, maybe I'm being a little ambitious with this statement, but had his career perhaps gone a little bit different for him, and perhaps he got fortune at a better occasion, he could well be in the Premier League. That's my opinion. Obviously, he's in League One now, and potentially he's good enough for the Championship. But had things gone a little bit different for him earlier on in his career, there's no reason why he couldn't be playing at a really high level.
Yeah, definitely. Because he was at Wolves just sort of before they came up to the Premier League, so that's how close he was to getting that chance, and things just didn't quite work out for him there. But again, it wasn't far off falling right for him there. And in fairness to him, we talk about him like he's a sort of a veteran almost. He's still only 26, so in that sense, there is definitely still time for him to work his way back up there. And as I say, if this season it doesn't work out for Wednesday, he could be back in the Championship with another club, or he could well go there with Wednesday. And from there, he will have the chance to kick on. And if he can prove himself in the division again, and there's no reason to suggest he wouldn't, given his past record there, then perhaps he might still get one chance in the top flight in the years to come. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows indeed. Very good player, though, I offer. At this level, Helen's got back in touch on YouTube. I do think Aidan Mcgee could still play at Championship level. I think that's a fair shout. We know the match-winning capabilities he's got when he's on his day. Marcus, let's come to you then. Who's your final player that you think is good for the league?
Back to Rotherham for my last play. Obviously, I had Michael Smith coming from Toby. I think the masters of League One in the last few years, you can't bet against Paul Warne's men, even getting promoted for a third successive time this season. I've gone for Michael Ahikwe, who plays at the centre of Rotherham's back three. He's a bit of an unsung hero for me. I think Richard Wood gets a lot of the plaudits. He's a great leader for the Millers. Wood's 36, Ahikwe's 8 years younger at 28, and I think he made a good fist of it at Championship level last season. His contract's actually up this summer, so that also brings in his future into a little bit of doubt. But I think he's just a huge contributor. He's been an absolute rock for Paul Warne, and one of those key constants. That the back three system suits him perfectly, playing in the centre of that, where he can be very commanding. He's slightly underrated. I think he's a better ball-playing defender than he probably gets credit for as well. And the players either side of him really do benefit from his leadership qualities and just his composure on the ball in the back line. So I think, it's not a surprise that we're a bit hot on Rotherham in terms of this list after how well they've done in recent years. But I think Ahikwe has definitely been a key figure in achieving that, and I wouldn't bet against him getting promoted once again this season.
Yeah, and I think it shows you as well, the fact we've mentioned two Rotherham players in this show, one up near the front, one at the back. They've got such a strong spine, haven't they, Marcus? And that's why they're always, there or thereabouts, challenging at the top of League One.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the things that stands out with Rotherham, particularly in League One, is their consistency. We've seen that up and the downside of the likes of Wigan and Sunderland so far in League One, but Rotherham are just slowly going along in the background. They'll sort of flying under the radar a little bit, and of course, with the experience that they've got in the side, they've managed to get great continuity of players that were still there at the club, having been involved in these recent promotions. So, I'd argue that maybe they're even favourites above Wigan and Sunderland to get automatic promotion at the moment. And the solidity that the likes of Michael Ahikwe and Richard Wood provide in the back line is going to be huge to achieving that.
Yeah, they're certainly looking particularly strong. Rotherham always there or thereabouts in the League One promotion picture. One final selection then, and that's my last one. One final player that I think is too good for League One level. And it's early on in his career, but I do think he's set for a very good career indeed, and that's Dan Neal at Sunderland. Been a formative campaign really for him in League One this year. Made 12 appearances for Sunderland so far. 11 starts in League One, one off the bench as well. Only the one goal, but that's not why he's in the team really. He's more in there to really, make things tick over in midfield. He's got 4 assists as well. It's easy to forget that he's still only 19. He won't turn 20 until December. Marcus, you look at a player like Dan Neal, we've been told as well at Football League World that Championship clubs are starting to look at him as Sunderland are eager to get a contract sorted for him. He looks like a real gem for them, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a real statement, I think, that clubs should maybe gamble on their younger players a little bit more. We've seen what Sunderland have tried in recent years to differing successes. They've got two players now in Elliot Embleton, who they were loaning out to Blackpool, who won promotion last season, a key player for them in this promotion push. And then obviously Dan Neal, that's having a real breakout season. Such great ability. As you mentioned, maybe in his current guise, it would be interesting to see how we get on in the Championship, but potential-wise, the sky's the limit. It's probably too soon to even say, but he is really looking like an exciting player, and hopefully Sunderland can nail him down to a longer term contract. So at least if there is interest from the big boys, which I firmly expect in January, they can get a pretty penny for his signature.
Yeah, he's certainly looking like a real find for Sunderland, a player to watch for the next sort of 10 or 15 years potentially. Been a great season for him so far in the middle of the park for the Black Cats even. Okay, so that rounds off our players we've picked. Myself, I picked Scott Twyne, Dapo Afolayan and Dan Neal. Toby went for Michael Smith, Sam Morsey and Dom Iorfa, and Marcus went for Dapo Afolayan as well, Anthony Scully and Michael Hickway at Rotherham United. So that brings an end to this afternoon's debate show on Football League World TV. We've been talking about the three players that we feel are too good for League One. Thank you everyone that got in touch with your comments. There's some great interaction there. It was really good to see. So thanks for that. Hopefully everyone else that was watching as well, hopefully you enjoyed what we had to say. Marcus and Toby, thank you as well for coming along and offering your thoughts. It was really interesting to hear what you had to say as well. Coming up on Football League World TV tomorrow, we've got Under the Microscope, Preston against Liverpool ahead of the Carabao Cup game at Deepdale. Alfie Bones will be hosting that one alongside Ben Wignall. But from myself, from Toby, from Marcus, thanks again for joining us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can, and we'll speak to you very soon.